You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Wellness and Weight Loss Wednesday, we are going to be tackling specifically the top 5 intermittent fasting myths hurting your health right now. So one of the reasons why I wanted to go over this today is that I've been doing a lot of interviews coming up, a lot of people having me on other podcasts, which I love doing. I appreciate that. And what I try to do is simply give you an unbiased perspective. But an unbiased perspective in this health, this body transformation, this fitness-based industry is rare. Believe it or not, it's actually rare because people typically have some type of an agenda. They have a special diet plan, a special exercise plan, a special keto, a special carnivore, a special low carb, a special high carb, a special whatever. And they're so committed to it that they're unwilling to look at all of the other factors that play into us being a human being and us in our own uniqueness, or bio-individuality. We call that bio, meaning our biology, how we function, and then individuality, what we need for our biology may actually be different than someone else's biology, and we don't always respect that. Now, one person doesn't need to be on all meat, and one person doesn't need to be on all carbs. There's not that much bio-individuality. However, the ratios can change, and our ability to fast can change as well. I want to go over those things today and really just cut through all of the, I would say, clutter out there, all of the confusion, and just give you an unbiased opinion of really how human physiology works, how it can go wrong, but how we can also use fasting to our benefit. I've said this before, and I'll say it again, that I believe that fasting is the fountain of youth. I believe it is the way that's going to enable us to turn off certain genes, turn on genes, tap into autophagy, which is basically cellular cleanup, breaking down of cancer cells, all of those things, hugely beneficial. The problem is some people just take it too far. You know, they were doing 16 hours and that was working great, but then all of a sudden now it's too much. They're breaking down. Why is it no longer working? Well, we'll talk about that today. And some people, well, they wonder, should I just do one meal a day or should I have breakfast? So I've gone over those on previous podcasts. I would love you to tune into those previous shows. We'll try to link up at least one today or embed one today. Today's podcast, if you want to head on over there, it's at stephencabral.com/1398. And we will absolutely try to embed at least one other show, most likely on catabolism. We'll talk about that today. And then also, again, things that will make your life a whole lot easier if I mention them in the show. So the last part I want to go over is this, is that I'll tell you exactly what I do. I do a 14-hour overnight fast. 14-hour overnight fast. But you might say, well, nobody's talking about 14 hours. I thought it had to be 12. I thought it was supposed to be 16. Or I thought you were supposed to push it to just one meal a day. Here's the thing. It's never one meal a day. I'm going to put it to you that way. Never one meal a day. But when you look at it, there is no magic number. There's not a magic number. We can just look at it like, okay, well, if we go 6 o'clock at night, and then we stop eating till midnight, that's 6 hours. And then if we want to do 16, well, what do we need to do? We need to go another 10 hours. Or if we want to go till lunch, that's 18 hours. But there's no set mark. People are like, oh, well, you start to tap into autophagy after 16 hours. To a greater degree, yes, but most people are breaking that at 16, which is why I talk about on other shows what to do. So again, There's not a magic number. It just makes it easier as part of a rhythm and routine. That's all. So for me, if I stop eating around 6 o'clock at night and I do 6 hours until midnight and then I go till 8 in the morning, I get 14 hours, right? So I get 14 hours. If I do a half hour lesson at 7:30, it's 13.5. So I'm on the 13.5 to 14 hour fast. But again, is that right for you? No. Some people who wake up with very low blood sugar may need to eat within a half hour of waking. And that's okay. They're more of the ectomorph or Vata body type, or they're recovering from some type of adrenal-based issue, some type of HPA axis issue. Okay? So there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. They're not less of a person because they fasted for only 12 hours from 6 at night to 6 in the morning. Not less of a person. No, not at all. And I'm not better because I did an extra couple hours than them. And the person that fasts until lunch doesn't get any awards either for fasting until lunch. They get an award if it's what's right for their body, right? Because the reward system is built in. We get more health because of it, or we start to break down with less health. And I want to talk about some of those things today. Again, so I am pro people. At the end of the day, I do whatever works best for the person. Not for a program, but for the person. It's why I'm so big on lab testing. It's why I'm so big on the 21-day equilibrium nutrition detox. Why? Because you get 21 days to see how your body is going to react to based on a inflammatory balancing, blood sugar healthy balancing, like all of these things, using low carb, using fasting. How is your body reacting? Then let's transition out of that. So again, I'm pro people, but we need to start moving forward. So that's why people are like, oh, well, I'm doing the 16-8. I say, great, fine, do it. Fantastic. It may be the right thing for you, or you might need to just work back a little bit after that. And that's okay as well. Nothing wrong with that at all. So let me help you with just a couple of those things today that I see so often and that I see there's a lot of confusion around. So for example, let's say you're fasting and you're doing a longer fast. You're fasting till lunch and you have some black coffee in the morning. Guess what? Most people 12-ounce, 16-ounce cup, 20-ounce cup of caffeine over 200 milligrams is going to kick you out of a fasted state. And you might say, well, that's impossible. I'd have to have some sugar in my coffee. I'd have to have some calories in my coffee. My coffee is 0 calories if I drink it black, or I put in a little bit of stevia or whatever it is. It's still 0 calories. I agree with you there. And again, don't shoot the messenger. I'm just the messenger. But here's what happens. Stress is stress. And if your body reacts to that black coffee as a stressor, what happens is this. It kicks on that HPA axis. Now, it's already on. Remember, about a half hour after waking, our body moves into what's called the cortisol awakening response. I'm not going to go over this too much, and the reason is I just spoke about this yesterday. So I would love for you to tune into yesterday's show, because if not, today's show is going to turn into yesterday's show, and I don't want to do that. So if you want to learn how your blood sugar naturally dips and rises throughout the day, check out episode 1397, okay? Outsmarting your blood sugar clock. Check that out. So here's the thing, though. With coffee as one more stressor, the HPA axis stands for this. Hypothalamus, little gland inside the brain. Pituitary, same thing. Adrenal glands, they sit right above your kidneys in your lower back on the left and right side. Okay, what does that mean? Well, when your body's under stress, when your body perceives stress, again, just perceives it. Caffeine coming into your system, that's stress, okay? So what does it mean? Well, your body says, okay, let's produce some adrenaline or norepinephrine. And that means we're going to start to constrict blood vessels, we're going to dilate the lungs, we can pull blood into the extremities or push blood out to the extremities actually to get ready for fight or flight, increase heart rate. So this is what happens. That's the process of adrenaline. It gets you ready to either charge at your opponent or run away. Like that's basically it. Fight, flight, or sometimes they say freeze, right? That's in deep fight or flight. Okay, so we have that. But then what? There's a second part to that we often forget. And the body, those are mineral corticoids. There's no quiz at the end, but those are mineral corticoids, okay? Now let's talk about glucocorticoids. Glucocorticoids, different than the aldosterone, the sodium, all that type of jazz, okay? Glucocorticoids, we call it cortisol. But glucocorticoids, you might have heard of it in there, gluco, raises our blood sugar levels naturally, okay? You might say, well, I don't want that. Well, but you don't have the choice. Your body turns it on. You don't. So glucocorticoids are produced when your body's in fight or flight. And what it allows is this. When your body's in fight or flight, breaking down body fat is too slow of a fuel source. Okay, great fuel source. Body fat's a great fuel source to tap into at a slow process, okay? But when your body's in fight or flight and it needs immediate energy, it breaks down glucose. And again, I talked about this more in depth yesterday, but keep in mind that your body stores somewhere between 90 and 120 grams in your liver. And if you say, oh, well, no, I depleted all of that, okay, well, it stores anywhere from 200 to 400 grams in your muscle tissue. So there's a lot of stored glucose. And you might say, well, I don't want to break down my muscle tissue. Again, you don't always have a choice. So be careful. How do you know if your black coffee is spiking your blood sugar or spiking glucose or kicking you out of a fasted state? You can just use, again, a $20 simple at-home glucometer. And for more information, check out yesterday's podcast on that, because you'll be able to test your glucose a half hour after your coffee to see if it spiked your blood sugar. Okay, easy, very simple, very straightforward. So, can coffee kick you out of a fasted state? The answer is potentially. Potentially, and you'll know if you just use that simple glucometer right at home. All right, next up is calories. Calories. What if you only have 25 calories for breakfast? What if you only have 50? What if you keep it under 71.5 grams of calories? Everyone's trying to come up with a magic number that doesn't kick you out of a fast. And there's so many pretend fasting systems out there, and they're pretend. They really are. They're not functional medicine based. You can eat nuts and you can eat this and you can eat that. No, you can't. You can't. When you eat food, it's not just about spiking blood sugar. So you might say, but you're always contradicting yourself. I'm not. There's just levels to this. And as you peel back the onion, as our IHPs know, as you peel back the onion, you say, oh, there's more to this. Because it's not just your blood sugar that kicks you out of a fasted state. It's also amino acids and calories coming in as well. If your body can use them as fuel, it will kick you out of that autophagy-based state, right? So maybe you can still continue to use glucose. That's possible. But even people loading up on 5-10 grams of amino acids, it could elevate glucose. It could elevate glucose in a way called gluconeogenesis. It's possible. It doesn't just have to be a piece of meat or eggs or fish or vegan-based protein. It doesn't have to be. What I'm trying to say with this myth, there's no magic number, and it doesn't just have to be sugar. Yes, taking in 3 tablespoons of fat could move you out of autophagy. No doubt about it. It could. If your body's using those fatty acids as a fuel source, it could. Because the goal for autophagy should not just be body fat burning. Remember, body fat burning is great for transforming your body. But I also want you to be well. And I want you to live a long, healthy life. And I don't want you to be riddled with joint pain or inflammatory-based issues or migraines or autoimmune or gut issues or hormone issues or imbalance or low mood or irritability or anxiety or overwhelm. Don't starve yourself, okay? That's part of today's conversation. Fuel the machine. I'm going to be talking about that towards the last point. But it's not just glucose. It's not just sugar. That matters for body transformation, body fat burning, no doubt about it. But for overall health and autophagy, when you're eating, most likely it's kicking you out of that state. But here's the thing. We know that, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But what you want is super easy to digest. Nuts are not super easy to digest. They are not. Liquid is already processed and broken down. It's much easier. So when we do every 12 weeks, every quarter, every season, just like in Ayurvedic times, just like in ancient times, but we just brought it up to 2020, right? We do a modern day functional medicine detox, the equilibrium detox. But here's the thing, Dr. Cabral detox, whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. Remember, names are semantics. It's what it does. We do 4 shakes a day. Every 3.5 hours, you're doing a shake. Now, there's very little calories. There's almost no carbohydrates. There's almost no fat. There's a little bit of protein for amino acids. But the reason we're doing that, preserve muscle tissue. Okay, that's one part, yes, because we're doing that for the first 2 days. But we're doing it to get all your vitamins and minerals in there. Because remember, your body doesn't just detox. Say, oh, here, just detox. No. Your body goes through a very specific process of what it needs. And if it doesn't get that, it will continue to break down your bones, your organ tissue, your muscles in order to get it. So yes, it will rob from over here to be able to process and detox. There's no doubt about it. But you're destroying your body and metabolism at the same time, which is why we do a controlled intermittent fast. So what we're doing is we might get kicked out of autophagy for 30 minutes, 60 minutes, but that's great because the overall sum is going to be greater because now we're not going to have massive Herxheimer detox reactions and we're giving our body what it needs to fuel itself, all of the phase 1 nutrients and all of the phase 2 nutrients. We did a free detox course. I hope that you check that out. It's over at Equilibrium Nutrition. We will link it up today at the show notes. So at StephenCabral.com/1398. It's completely free. Completely free. I want to pass this on. It's free for a limited time, yes. But if you're listening to this right now, if you're a podcast listener, it is free. Okay? And I want you to check that out. And also, if you just want a shortened version for the podcast, check out episode 823. On episode 823, you will learn all about a functional medicine detox. These things are clinically proven. There's no guesswork. This is what phase 1 needs. This is what phase 2 of your liver detox needs. And we do that, okay? So, but remember, I don't pretend. There's no pretend. If you have nuts for breakfast, you're not in a fasted state. It's just the way that it works. Or if you have whatever. I mean, again, I'm just using nuts as an example because people on a keto-based diet and people doing certain types of fasts, they're doing that. But it's not a fasted state, okay? Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but let's call it what it is. That's not a fasted state. Okay. And they're heavy to digest. Breaking down nuts is hard to break down. Okay. Next up, number 3. Thyroid does get affected by fasting, and unfortunately, it's much more in women than it is in men. So people can say all you want, oh, there's no this or that. It doesn't affect your thyroid, especially if you're getting in all the calories you need for the day. No, that's not true. That's not true. If your body is under chronic stress, it begins to lower metabolic rates. And typically that comes with lowering thyroid. We call that hypothyroidism. Okay? It doesn't necessarily mean Hashimoto's. Hashimoto's is an autoimmune low thyroid. Okay? But low thyroid means that your TSH, I know this is the confusing part. It was for me many years ago. When your TSH starts to get higher, it actually means that you have lower thyroid. And I know that's strange, but here's how to make it simpler for all of us. TSH stands for thyroid stimulating hormone. If your thyroid is low, your body will make more thyroid stimulating hormone. Okay? So it's trying to stimulate the thyroid to make more because metabolism is going lower. That's it. Now, again, that's why you want to test free T4 and free T3. Really important. Because your body under stress, what does it do? Well, here's the thing. Your body knows in all of its innate wisdom, we're under stress. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to lower conversion of T4 to T3. And even if you're making T3, we're going to shift it over here towards reverse T3. And now it's unusable. So why? So that your body can survive on less calories, that we slow circulation, you get the cold hands, cold feet. Non-essential processes begin to wane a little bit. Muscle repair, your hair might get a little thinner, nails might get a little thinner, skin might get a little thinner or drier. All of these things can happen. You can survive on less calories per day. That's not something to be proud of, trust me. You want to be able to eat more calories and maintain the same weight. That's a strong metabolism. That's what we want. And if there's something wrong with the thyroid, majority of the time, the adrenals are leading the charge. That's because they are in charge of stress. They get, well, technically your hypothalamus is, right? That's the epicenter of the brain that's saying, okay, here's what's going on, everybody. Here's what we need to do. But again, all of these are controlled, and the adrenals are a big signaler of stress. So how do you know? Well, you run your thyroid adrenal hormone test, or you listen in on those symptoms that I just gave you. The lowering of calories that you can eat per day, the loss of muscle mass, the thinning of the hair, skin, or nails, drying of the skin, poor circulation, cold hands and feet, brain fog. And if that's the case, ideally you're running that mood metabolism stress test, formerly called the thyroid adrenal hormone. Super important, okay? It will tell you about why you are or aren't losing weight, or you're stressed, or your body's breaking down. Super important. Okay, number 4 is this. A lot of people are saying, okay, well, I'm going to skip breakfast in the morning. I say, I get it. Listen, I understand. And they're saying, but on the days that I exercise, I might have breakfast. And I would say to you this, there's a good potential that it's actually more important for you to have breakfast the day after you exercise rather than the day you are exercising. Here's why. Multiple reasons why. I went over about exercising fasted. So I went over that previous podcast. If you want to check that one out, should you exercise in a fasted state? But also, it has to do with the repair process. If you exercise, let's say in the afternoon the day before, well, you still can have lunch before, so you're fueling the system. But the next morning, you might actually be a little bit lower blood sugar, which means having breakfast would just bring you back most likely to normal blood sugar. That's not a bad thing. And also, it would keep the repair process going rather than you not eating overnight and then also not until lunch the next day. Remember, you want to repair your body. If you're breaking it down, remember, exercise is breaking down your body. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Break down, repair, tax, rejuvenate. That's what we want. Catabolism, anabolism. Catabolism is breaking down, anabolism is building back up. But you have to listen to your body, and you have to build it back up. So I'm not necessarily saying that either fast or don't fast, but I would look at it a little bit differently. If you're exercising the latter half of the day after lunchtime, you might actually do better with having breakfast the day after exercising in order to continue the repair-based process. Fuel the body. Something to think about. This is more of a thought exercise. If you're fasting every day, or you're not doing a breakfast fast on the days that you're exercising in the afternoon, you might want to think about it. You might actually want to add breakfast on the day after a workout, where the repair needs to be done. You need more sleep. You need to eat some food, some carbs, protein, and fat to repair those muscle tissue. Again, something to think about because you're probably not hearing that in a lot of different places. So it doesn't mean you have to do it right away, but I at least want you to think about it. All right, the next one is this. Look at your total catabolic load to determine how much fasting you can do. This is so important. And I've done a lot of shows on this, on hermetic stressors, on whether you should fast or not in the morning through breakfast, and this is where bioindividuality comes in. But I want to give you an example. If you are someone that is pretty stressed in life, if you start your day to your alarm going off, getting your kids ready for school, or rushing off to work, sitting in a rush hour meeting, worried about the day, that's a big stress. If you're fasting on top of that, that's another stressor. Your body, you have to keep in mind, your body is in survival mode right now, okay? Fasting is a very good thing. It's a very good thing. Again, in the beginning of the show, I said closest thing we have right now to the fountain of youth. We're talking about taking it too far, though, and things that kick you out of fasting. Okay, fasting's a stressor. That's it. If you're only doing 2 meals a day, very difficult to get in all the micronutrients you need. That means all the vitamins, all the minerals, and also the phytonutrients. If you have 2 meals a day, let's say you're having 3 cups of veggies at each one of those meals. Okay. That's 6 cups. You know I recommend 7 to 9 servings, and a lot of people are saying now 9 to 12 based on the research. Because brightly colored fruits and vegetables are the only thing that we know of that prevents cancer. It's the only thing that we know of. You're not going to find protein preventing cancer. Okay? Now, if you're protein deficient, different story. You're not going to find fats. Now, there's some good research on olives on helping to potentially kill cancer cells. But here's the thing. Still in the fruit veggie kingdom, right? Like if we look at that. So here's the thing. It's still a vegetable and fruit. Brightly colored fruits and vegetables. Hard to get them if you're only eating 2 meals a day. And also, you're probably not eating any berries at all or any fruit if you're only doing 2 meals a day because fruit doesn't mix very well with meals. So it's something to think about overall. Again, just one more stressor. You might not be meeting your needs. And the other one, a big one, maybe one of the biggest, is sleep. If you're getting less than 8 hours of sleep a night, it's another stressor. Because if you're exercising, I didn't even add exercising, and you're exercising, okay, lack of sleep, stress, work, life, family, emotion, exercise, fasting for more than just 12 hours overnight. only eating 2 meals a day, not getting all of your micros. Those are all stresses on the body. So remember, those are called catabolic-based activities. The reverse opposite of those are true, which is more anabolic. What happens if you become too anabolic, though? Well, you start to pack on too much weight. That's why it's always about finding the right balance. Don't become too catabolic where you're breaking down too fast. You're starting to get more wrinkles. You're starting to age faster. You're starting to get more brain fog, more fatigue, more weakness, right? We want to find that happy medium where we have the energy, the vitality, the zest for life, and we're able to maintain the lean body that we want, which, again, that's personal to us, and the wellness, right? Don't allow your body transformation goals to wreck your health. So keep both. You can have both. Remember, you can have it all. You really can. You can be happy in both mind and body. You can have that great physique that you want and also be well. All that I'm trying to preach to you is bioindividuality and maintaining overall great health. Hopefully today's podcast was helpful, or at least just got you thinking. Remember, you don't have to accept it right at face value. I just want you to stay open. I want you to start to think. I want you to start to question, is this right for me? And if it was right 6 months ago, is it still right today? Because maybe it's not. You can change. Your body does change. It adapts and it needs to sometimes shift in life. So again, hopefully this was helpful. I could talk about this all day, but I'm going to respect your time. I'm going to keep it there. As always, please do feel free to share this show with anyone you believe it could serve. I want to sincerely thank you for your support of this podcast. I couldn't do it without you, and I mean that. I truly do. I also want to make sure you knew that we now have multiple ways for you to find your answers to the most difficult health, wellness, weight loss, and anti-aging questions. You can find podcast-specific topics like thyroid, adrenal, hormones, sleep, digestion, Ayurveda, and many more at stevencabral.com/podcasts that will then link you to your favorite Apple, Spotify, and other podcast players. Plus, all new podcasts and weekly exclusive video content is being added to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Stephen Cabral. And that's Stephen with a PH. Head on over and subscribe so that you don't miss any of the exclusive content. Lastly, if you've ever found any of my podcasts or books to be helpful, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a review on iTunes or your favorite media player for the podcast. Rating and subscribing to the YouTube and podcast allow me to reach more and more people and help spread my mission of healing throughout the world. Thank you again for being a part of this movement.